I have been called a bully. I have been called a villain. I had to sit with myself to really acknowledge, because rather than rejecting it, I was in a place where I was like, okay, if I am that, I would want to work with it. Welcome, welcome to the seventh and final episode of Liquid Love Season 1, a podcast where we talk about self love, creativity, and authentic living. I'm Maitri, and this is Nandini.
I'm so excited for the fact that this is going to be our final episode, and today we're talking about the shadow work.
Before we jump forward, I would like Nandini to give us a little recap of everything that we've discussed so far.
So, yes, in season 1, so far in episode 1, we talked about how difficult it is for us to be ourselves, especially in Indian society, how we mask who we truly are. Our second episode was actually 3 to 5 realizations of our own that we had as we decided we're going to live very authentically. We're going to be ourselves no matter what. In episode 3, we discovered what a good life on paper has and doesn't have for us, pretty much. Then we talked about letting go. So episode 4 was me talking about my process of letting go and where in my life I've had to let go, things have been taken from me, and how I dealt with those things. And then in episode 5, Maitri discussed her life and the things that she's had to let go of and her beautiful process to let go with, I guess, more intention and ease. The last podcast we did was on the emptiness that comes after letting go. That was actually a really cool one. A very interesting, vague but specific one. So today we're going to talk about something that I hear so much about, and that is shadow work. I think it's a big trending term these days. This is for anyone who's had, a very difficult childhood growing up, and then they became an adult, and they realized, you know what, I have to take responsibility for my life, and I'm going to choose to live a better life. I'm going to choose to heal myself. All those of us who sort of fit into that category, we would have definitely heard about shadow work. And Maitri knows a lot more about it, has been practicing it for several years, whereas for me, I'm still very new. I've only just started to dip my toes into shadow work. I think I only really started maybe about 6 months ago. And it takes a lot of courage. So, I've been coming in and out and haven't really been fully delving in. So this is going to be a little more of like a Q&A style where I ask Maitri questions about shadow work, and we all get to learn. I want to start off by asking, what is the shadow, or what is shadow work?
So before I want to answer that question, I would also like to add something to what you just said. I feel that whether or not we've had, quote unquote, a different or difficult childhood, I feel everybody has a shadow self period, because whether it is, all the experience I have doing self work personally, or dealing with clients and hearing about stories of friends, etc., I feel that while we are in the formative years of our life and we are growing up, basically, simply put, while we are growing up, we have this idea or a bracket that this is desirable behavior. So we club all of those qualities and we try to embody more of that, which is natural conditioning, whether it comes from parents or whoever, your primary caregivers or society or whatever. And there is this other bracket, which is like, oh, this is frowned upon, undesirable behavior. I will have negative consequences if I express myself in this way, or if I indulge in this behavior, etc. So everything which gets pushed into that bracket of undesirable negative consequences, all of that ends up being our shadow. And so I believe that everybody has a shadow self, whether or not we choose to acknowledge it or work with it. Eventually, everybody has to. If you don't, you can't grow, I feel. And sometimes it happens deliberately, where you're like, you get to shadow work more deliberately and proactively, and sometimes you fall into it, like the way it happened with me when I started doing, I personally call it self work in the journey of self-development, knowing myself, spirituality is what I call it. As I started to work with myself and integrate these various parts of myself and do a lot of inner child healing work, I realized what I ended up doing was allowing a space for that part of me, which I personally had judged over the years. And I was ashamed of it. I used to judge it. I shunned it. And so as I allowed those parts of me to come up, um, that is what essentially is shadow work, which I later realized, the term I realized later, but I started doing that work. And it, like you said, it does take courage, but I was sort of ready by then personally to deal with the embarrassing parts of myself while I was reparenting myself, you know. And most of the time it looked like me sitting and crying, writing pages and pages of, I won't even call it journal, because by then I had filled up multiple journals. And so I just had these reused papers and I used to just write whatever came to me without judging it. And so that's like a lot of crying and sobbing. Now it looks very different. Now I go through the motions, and I go through the motions as in like ups and downs. I feel I live in the deep a lot. So as I'm processing pain, um, it comes out more easily because I guess I allow it to come out more frequently. So I just experience that release more easily. So even though I have days where I just don't want to talk to anyone, I currently live with my mother, and my mom and I, we both know on certain days we just not talking to each other, and that's not out of anger or something like that. It's just understood. We can we know, we look at each other and we know that today is not to be, it's not for other people, it's for self, and to prioritize healing for self.
So I really appreciate that you mentioned that you were doing shadow work even before you knew the term of doing shadow work, because I genuinely think that, this whole mental health, self-care industry, it is an industry, and as part of that, we put a lot of labels on things. But it is also just us categorizing things that are very natural. They are things that happen very naturally. These are things that will come up as long as we have the courage to face them. I would love to know from you, since you've done this work so extensively, and also I'm pretty sure in your previous life as, somebody who was a mental health professional, you would have seen a lot of other people do this work, help them do this work as well. When or why should one get into doing shadow work?
If you're in a position to choose shadow work deliberately, then what it is in the simplest way is to just open that door where all of your triggered experiences, that moments, those memories, those experiences where you felt humiliated or dejected or small or insecure, just creating a safe space for yourself where you can just express and relive those moments, and do it at your own pace, because a lot of stuff comes out, and it comes out in a way that, depending on how intense it is, how challenging it is for you, but a lot of times it's just blocked because it's a traumatic experience. So it's gonna just allow yourself, sit with yourself again, create that empty space, something we spoke about in the previous episode. So having a space where you feel safe to express to relive the moments where you feel scared, small, embarrassed, shame. So as you allow those parts to come out, you will figure out your own ways to accept it. I think acceptance is one of the most important things. I won't go as far as to say love those parts of yourself. It's just accept it. That happened, and yes, in that moment, that is all you could think of. I have been called a bully. I have been called a villain, just giving an example, no names, no instances. But I had to sit with myself to really acknowledge, because rather than rejecting it, I was in a place where I was like, okay, if I am that, I would want to work with it. I know I can alchemize that energy for myself. So I sat with it and I realized how much I took accountability for how much ever I could. And I was like, yes, I understand how I could have been the villain in somebody else's life, how I could have been perceived like that, even though my intention was not to hurt anyone else. But in that moment, the way I behaved, the way I spoke, the way I acted, it could be quite hurtful to another person. And I see that and I accept it. So just doing that work, and and I can't tell anybody when to do it, but I think as you keep working on yourself, these moments come, whether you meditate, whether you are, take therapy or any form of self-work that you do, or if you're on the spiritual path, if you're an artist, for heaven's sake, I think for an artist, it is primary to work with yourself, because that is where the truth of your emotion, the truth of your story comes from. The narrative has to be true. So if you're an artist, of course, you end up doing shadow work because you're playing these roles and characters and stories which are about life. And if it's not going to hit your audience if you're not speaking the truth. I mean, it can be embellished and it can be promoted, but it's not going to click. Yeah, it needs to click. So when to do it, up to you. But I feel that somewhere along the line, you'll chance upon it. And a lot of times it comes through breakups and breakdowns, not in just the romantic sense, like crisis situations, health breakdowns, relationship breakdowns, financial breakdowns. So life will give you many opportunities to sit with yourself, reflect on how you've been living your life, and to embrace the parts of yourself that you once judged and shunned.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I resonate with everything that you're saying. Absolutely. I would also say that if you feel like you've been sabotaging yourself a lot, self-sabotage, I think that's a time to start looking into shadow work. I also feel like if you feel like, bro, I have every resource in my hand, but I'm just not moving forward, why am I holding myself back? That is also, for me, an indication that there are some things that are unaddressed that just need a little bit of attention. And I mean, as I said, I'm no expert at all in this. Maybe one day I would like to be. There always is a problem if there if there isn't smoothness, if there is some resistance, and that resistance has, it's like an anchor that's pulling you back. So that anchor might have some seeds deep within that you're not yet looking at. So that might be a good place to, just starting this work would be a good point there. The next question I have for you, really, is what are the benefits that you yourself have experienced from doing shadow work?
Embrace what's outside, surrender to what is within, integrate to emulsify duality, and you are sure to win. This is something that came to me, and I feel this is my mantra for life. I will practice it because balance and embracing duality is very important for me. Why I'm saying this is because there is a sense of freedom and empowerment in embracing the things outside. Because when I'm insecure, I would want to control things that are outside of me, which obviously ends up in frustration. And you can't do that after a certain point of time, whether you're trying to latch on to a person or a situation or whatever. Surrender to what is within, I mean that I believe that all of us have a voice, a light, a guiding force, even if we have to do a little bit of work to allow that voice to activate and to be a part of our daily life. So surrendering to that voice. Integrating duality is because that's the most empowering way I feel to live this human experience. Because for me, experience trumps all. It's not about the things I own, the people, the relationships that I have in my life, or what I achieve through this journey of life. What's most important for me is to have a life experience where I can experience diversity, be open, be curious, go through the ups and downs. And I feel that is what I have found by integrating or doing shadow work, I feel a lot lighter, freer in my everyday life. I can today accept a lot of diversity that is around me. I naturally do not try to control things which are outside of me. So what happens is it's a smoother life experience because detachment kicks in. And it's not something that you're reaching for just by understanding the duality which is present within you, the shadow which is present within me. A few of my shadow aspects were, I had judged the word passion. It was a scary word for me. So I judged myself for being passionate, for being fiery, for having an opinion. I am, and these are not things like from a third person. Now that I look at this in hindsight, and as I'm integrating the various aspects of myself, I am passionate, but not in a detrimental, scary, extreme way. But while growing up, I was told that I can be very dominating and manipulative and very aggressive, and I can be very loud, I guess. So I had all of those things, and I was like, okay, so that means that's undesirable. So let me box it down. Let me do what is stable, what is the middle ground. So I did develop a personality, and which there was a lot of people pleasing, which is very unhealthy, which became very unhealthy. Worked out for people around me, did not work out for me eventually. So I was very clued on as to what is expected of me, but that became detrimental. So I had to unleash as I did my shadow work, I realized boundaries are so important. Saying no when I cannot do it. Of course, I would want to help you and serve you and be there for you, but I also get to say no. So that is a consequence of shadow work. That ended up being a consequence of shadow work. So it's just a lighter, smoother life because I understand I can receive rejection so much better now, so much more easily, because I know that when I'm saying no to somebody, because I'm saying it with integrity, and with a lot of times I say no because I know I cannot support them in with a quality which they deserve, with an attention that they deserve. That's why I'm saying no. I'm not saying no because I want to hurt them or make them look small. So because when I say no, the meaning has changed. When I receive a no, the meaning has also changed. So I can receive no's, I can receive things not going according to me. So that's big for me because again, detachment has kicked in.
I'm gonna be honest, like the first part of what you said went over my head.
I could actually see it on your face that you were not understanding the way I was framing my sentences, but I kept going because I wanted to be out there, and it'll resonate with the people it does resonate with. And sometimes things make sense to us slowly. Sometimes things get activated, questions arise as we listen to something which didn't make sense to us, but maybe, 3 days later when you're cooking, it's like, oh, that's what it meant. Because I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm just saying what works for me. And, for you, you'll realize how it clicks in for you.
So, but near the end of what you were saying, that's when I was like, okay, I can tangibly see how the meaning of the word no has changed, because like the more you were able to accept the parts of you that you had shut down, it's almost like you no longer need those parts to be accepted by others because you accept them yourselves, yourself, such as being a passionate person. And even when you said, for example, and this is also really cool because when you said that you used to judge the word passion and being passionate, I never did. I always like envied people who had passion, because I was passionate about a few things. And yes, of course, as a teenager, it's pretty cringy to be so passionate about Eminem, I guess. Um, but yeah, it's like, so when you said like not like the crazy weird kind of passion, I was like, interesting. I don't even know what that really looks like, because in my life experience, that was not something that, you know, was something I had to hide or whatever it was. So it's really cool how for each individual it can be so very different around that. I have a little Q&A game that I would like to play just before the end of our final seventh podcast of season one of Liquid Love. Okay, super short answers, like 10 seconds or less. So now it's Q&A time. So here's a question for you, and feel free to, ask me the same question, or you can variate and ask me something else after this as well. Okay, so the first question is, what is a part of you that you suppressed as a child, which you are now in this moment openly embracing?
Being weird, having layered, mixed, not being like, not having one answer, you know. I'm open to having mixed feelings about people and things, and I'm open to changing my mind now, which was something that I heavily judged.
Very cool, very cool. Good answer. So question number two. Um, What is a part of you that you haven't fully embraced yet?
Saying yes to go to a movie with you, and then if my inner guidance the next morning says don't go today, I still have a bit of a hesitation before I communicate to you that, Nandini, I don't think I can make it. I still have a bit of hesitation there.
So do you mean like is it a slight people pleasing thing, or is it a commitment thing? Like you don't want to break your commitments?
It's more of a thing of me going back on my word. It feels like that, like I changed my mind. So I'm still working on fully, trusting myself in the sense that, like, no, but I told them yes that I'll go for the movie, but today morning should I just push myself and go? It's not a people pleasing thing at all. It's more of like, um, can I just stay true to what I just said before, or will it be more honest for me to just tell them what I feel now? I'll ask you a different question. So my first question is, you said it's been about 6 months that you have stepped into shadow work. What do you feel is the emotional pattern that is coming up most strongly? If you're comfortable sharing, of course.
Interesting. Because no, I'm very happy to share these sorts of things, but I don't know if I can give you that sort of answer necessarily because there's this book called Existential Kink, which I started to read, and that is such a mind-bending book. And I think in that book, one of the concepts in that main concepts at the beginning of the book, because I haven't finished it yet, was that anything you hate, you actually love, or anything about your life that you have that you dislike, you secretly love it, And it was like it really got us to explore those things, and it tells us to sort of like get off on the pleasure of the discomfort, of the disgust of all of these things. So that was like a crazy experience for me, and I really want to go back and do the first part again of that book and finish it. But one thing I have been doing, and this is more of a pattern of what I've been, just something I've become really aware of, is if I ever have a strong emotional reaction to something, instead of just feeling it and letting it go, I tend to now ask myself, is it really wrong? Because I don't believe morality is an objective thing. I think it's very, very subjective. So, for example, I just finished reading The 40 Rules of Love, which for a change is not a self-help book. It is actually a fictional book by Elif Shafak, I think is the name of the author. She's in anyway. So in that book, it's a pretty good book, solidly good book. Um oh, this is like half a spoiler, I guess, sort of. But one of the female leads, I'll just say like one of the female characters starts to develop romantic feelings for a man that she's not married to. Okay. And whenever that was expressed in the book, I had such a strong reaction of like, I don't like this character, this person, no, like I would literally be like, no, no, please don't, like, no, and I had such a strong reaction to that. And then I really thought about it and I was like, this woman clearly isn't satisfied in her marriage. Her husband is openly cheating. If this was a person, I would be understanding. But because it's a character in a book, I'm not understanding. Like, I want her to make a different choice. So I was just like, what is going on? Like, if it was me, I don't know, like, how do I process that? And then I really sat with it because I had such a strong reaction. And so I think the beginning of shadow work I'm doing right now, or anything related to that, even if this is not specifically shadow work, is I really am looking at what is it that I'm judging and what is making me judge it, and realizing that I can still have like a strong reaction to it. And at least with this example, what ended up happening is like it was really bothering me for so long that I eventually got to a point of where I accepted it. And then I got to a point of being like, I can accept that for you, but I can still judge you and I can still dislike what you did. So I don't know. You tell me what my patterns are because I'm confused.
I think that is such a subjective thing. So it's not about me. Even if I tell you something, that is my journey. I feel that's for me. That's what I heard. Because when you tell a story, my mind has the flexibility of processing it in my own way. The story you are reading and the story I read after reading the same book might be completely like we might focus on different points. That is one of the reasons I even on my Instagram bio I had written I am what the filters in your mind tell me I am. Because so that is why it is such a personal journey. But if I have to really sum it up of what shadow work is and what it has done for me is to create a more integrated, wholesome experience of life. That is what shadow work has. That's, I would say, the USP of shadow work is create a more wholesome life. And what it does is just makes you feel fuller because you know that, yes, I know, I know that when needed, I can be fiery and I can be very, very functional or very masculine in my approach, healthy masculine in my approach. I can be very to the point and let's get shit done. And I also can be very, very soft and let the other person lead and also take a back seat and trust that what is around me will work for me. So it is more empowering for me to know that I get to choose how I respond.
Actually, that is actually what the book was talking about in a way, although I'm still at the beginning part of it, where it was like that's what one thing I've started to do since having this experience with this book and other, I mean, I haven't really done other shadow work other than this. I've only like been like I've been aware of it. I've learned the process. I haven't really applied it, to myself. But it is that thing where sometimes when I hate something so much, I hate it so much, and then I go, you know what? I love feeling this hate. I love like the just like the feeling of like the my blood pressure rising and like all of this like just taking over me. Like let me experience the pleasure of that experience of dislike, the pleasure of the experience of crying till I'm like snot's coming out of my nose. Well, it's so indulgent. It's such a like a whole body experience. Gosh, that book, bro, I'm not recommending it. I haven't been sponsored or anything, but like, God, like it really broke me. It broke the way that I live life in a way. Not it didn't break it, but it's just I remember I went on a walk. I go for walks in the evening, and as I was going for this walk, I was creating a goal. I was in this process of like creating goals for the next year, right? We're recording this in 2025, by the way. So as I was like, thinking of that, I had this desire in me. And it was the first time in a long time that I actually had something I wanted to achieve. And then I just felt it and I was like, "Ooh, it feels good to want something. It feels good to want and not have it." Whereas a lot of people are like, no, I just want it, bro. I want it. I want it. I'm like, no, but just like really feel that feeling of, you know what? I fucking want this. Like it's just so it's such a sexy, like I don't have it yet, but like the anticipation, the wanting. Um, and you know what? It is freaking historical. The last thing I'll say, I know I'm talking a little too much about this, but I went to Jaipur quite recently, and in that place, I went to, I think it's called the Albert Museum or something like that. I'll put the name up on YouTube here. So in there, they have these like, this like old manuscript text of some romantic katha. And in that, they talked about the stages of love. And it was so weird, but like one of the first stages of love was waiting for your lover to respond back to you. And I was like, that is very texting, it's very modern. But in that, they have like literally like the old style. I even took pictures, so I'll put the pictures up here right now. But there's these old style, like, art of this woman is sitting like under a tree and just waiting for her lover to respond to her. So It's just so it's like, is this the experience of all human beings of all time? And it's just like there is something so beautiful even in the waiting of it, even in the anticipation of it. Because if you didn't experience that, then you just get it. And if you just get it, is it really worth it? Is it? It could be. I don't know. It's weird.
As you were talking, um, I have two things to say. Firstly, it really helps me to experience a similar experience emotionally on certain days when I'm working out. Um, I tell this to myself, and I say that I just want to run till I drop dead, or I just want to dance till I my last breath. And that comes from not a space of pushing myself hard. It's just that I'm excited to challenge myself, and it feels really good. So on the outside, it might feel like I'm perspiring and I'm out of breath and things. I might look uncomfortable, but on the inside, I'm like, no, this feels great. So it's like that kind of duality wherein I am deliberately choosing to be in a place of striving, you know. And my second point, related point, was while I was listening to you said the beauty of waiting. I a lot of times it reminds me of something that I've spoken about on my channel previously, which is while I was talking about soulmates and just experiencing love, the way that I experience love now, which is much more than one romantic relationship. So love has so many colors and hues and intensities, and waiting is a part of it, and feeling upset and feeling frustrated is a part of it, and yearning is a part of it, and feeling dejected is a part of it, and all of those have meaning for what they are. So that also, I would say, links back to kind of shadow work, because that is what exactly shadow work is. Shadow work is like, oh, you accept the bright and shiny parts of you. Again, subjectively, whatever is bright and shiny for me, if I accept the bright and shiny parts of me, it is equally loving to me and equally empowering for me to accept the parts of me that I judge.
That is so beautiful. And on that note, let us cheers to the beginning and the end of season 1 of Liquid Love, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the very, very best. And in this time that we now have, oh, by the way, once we do cheers, we should drink. Let's take a little sip. This one's for you. We did this with all our heart. Thank you so much to the back end team, Sonali, as well, who's been here with us this whole time. Thank you, Maitri. Thank you, me. While now we have this gap at the end of season 1, we want to know what it is that you guys want us to talk about in season 2, whether we should even have a season 2, what are some of the formats that you liked. Let us know any ideas you have, and we'll take them into consideration as we develop the next season. And is there anything else you want to say to them? Ended up well. Okay. So because we have some no, it's okay. Because we have some mic issues today, Methu just said we ended well. So we'll end it here. Thank you very much for watching. We have so much love for you. Thank you very much. Liquid love. This one is for you. And see you in the next season. Bye.